The atmosphere in Jackie's altered the moment Evelyn took the stage. She walks with the clear, deliberate gait of someone who has been overextended. For days, instead of the subdued gray for which she is sometimes famous, rumors had been spreading around green rooms, makeup chairs, and fan pages about a single, catastrophic accusation in which Evelyn had taken part. Chantel was ready to spill all the beans about the romance. But instead of shuddering beneath the rumors, Evelyn faced the crowd and spoke in a firm tone. Shaw paused, staring. Her voice interrupted the faint murmur of the audience. "Let's be clear," she said. There seemed to be a tremendous electric current of lying in the air. Jackie's grip on her cards tightened, but her face remained impassive as she tried to strike a balance between her need to maintain control and her desire to let everything play out for the cameras. These stories are pure lies. Fans at home were glued to their TVs in droves. Social media reactions in real time revealed that although some people backed Evelyn, others thought her denial was just fueling the fire. And in the tight silence that followed her words, as if it were part of the set design, everyone understood that something more important was about to happen. Jackie's studio's lights were hotter than usual. The audience was raucous, reflecting off the polished floor and absorbing the tension in the air throughout the warm-up. However, it got quiet as the camera centered on the two women sitting in the front, almost holding their breath on either side of the stage. It was Evelyn who stood rigidly. Her eyes were sharp, focused on Chantel as though she were getting ready to strike, but her fists were gripped in her lap. Chantel, however, seemed almost too comfortable. A slight knowing smile tugged at her lips. She appeared to be waiting for Evelyn to slip by, extending one leg over the other. Between them was Jackie's chair. She was angled towards the audience, yet her body was rigid. She was trying to look neutral, but sometimes she looked like a referee who knows the battle is about to get out of control. Her gaze shifted tensely back and forth between them. The cameras recorded every facial expression, hand gesture, and jaw tightening, broadcasting the event live to hundreds of viewers at home and thousands more who were already filming it for social media. Evelyn was the first to break the stillness. She said in a low voice that cut through the air like glass, "You've been telling everyone for weeks that I'm involved in something that I'm not, and now you're sitting on this stage, pretending to have receipts." As she took a small step closer, her brows furrowed. "So where are they?" The audience reacted in a wave of murmurs, a couple of people even gasping loud enough for the mics to pick it up. Chantel didn't flinch. Instead, she tilted her head, resting her elbow on the armrest and propping her chin on her hand like she was studying Evelyn. "Receipts aren't something you flash. When the time is appropriate, you bring them out," she said softly. Her words were deliberate. "For pleasure, you carry them about. Perhaps we should first hear the specifics of the accusations." Jackie attempted to intervene in a calm but somewhat strained voice. Evelyn had the opportunity to answer straight, but she interrupted with a stern look. She added, "Oh, we all know what she's been saying. You've been whispering about an affair, about me crossing lines I would never cross," she said, turning back to Chantel, whose smile faltered for a little second but was captured on camera. A woman in the second row covered her mouth with her hands and whispered something to the man next to her, saying, "I'm not here to play innocent when I know what I've seen. You've been planting seeds, hoping they'll grow into something ugly enough to ruin me," she said. Standing up straight, sweeping, and before answering, she took an imaginary speck out of her skirt. "If the truth ruins you, that's not on me," she said. "You've seen nothing but what you want to see," she said, her voice trembling now from exasperation rather than fear. "And you're trying to sell the whole story you've constructed in your mind to everyone who will listen." Red recording lights and phones were held high among the crowd, and people were blinking to make sure they didn't miss anything. There was a mixture of astonishment and excitement in the air, and some people flinched as Evelyn stood up and her chair scraped against the stage. "You can't use me as your headline, please." Chantel sat there, staring up at Evelyn, her face almost defying her to go on. "Sometimes," she says, "the headline might write itself, especially if the people involved leave the door open." There were murmurs coming from the rear of the room, and a voice reached the microphones. "Whoa, what a surprise." Jackie leaned forward, clearly torn between letting the drama play out and stepping in before things got out of hand. Despite the tension between the two women, she said, "Ladies," in a firm tone. Her remarks were indistinguishable from the background. "We're live. Let's remember that." Evelyn's jaw hardened and her hands clenched into fists at her sides. Sitting there and pretending to be the voice of truth is not your place. "You've got your own," she said, "mess." You don't want to be out here, Miss Chantel, so perhaps you should think again before trying to make mine the center of attention. The atmosphere changed little, but noticeably. The audience could see it right away. The eyes widened. The room started to mutter louder as a few people straightened their stance. A more challenging tuid look had taken Chantel's smile's place. Part disobedience, part warning. "Are you threatening me?" she asked quietly, but her voice carried. When Jackie's fingers moved as though she was about to signal the crew, Evelyn added, "I'm saying that we can go there if you'd like to. Be aware that once the words are, they can't be taken back once they're out." Jackie hesitated. For weeks, people discussed this type of unscripted, pure drama. She continued to lean in Evelyn's direction. The mics continued to record it even after she warned, "Be careful." The tension remained. It just intensified and evolved. As if trying to control herself, Evelyn crossed her arms and backed off a little. Chantel leaned forward and spoke steadily. Her response was, "I'm not the one who's afraid of the truth," the audience replied once more. And the stage lights appeared to blaze hotter as the speaker said, "You are because you know deep down that there's more to this story than you want people to see." It felt like every second went by a little too slowly. Nobody made the decision to switch to commercial. Nobody was willing to turn away. People outside the studio were already responding in real time on the internet, and phones were still recording. The audience appeared to lean in simultaneously as Jackie's words escaped her mouth, with trending hashtags emerging, speculative threads expanding, and hazy screenshots from the live feed being examined. It was as though some invisible force had pulled the entire room forward. This was more than a heated argument. It felt like they were just beginning, but it was the kind of moment that could alter everyone's perception of both ladies. With a slow, deliberate breath, Chantel looked from Jackie to Evelyn. She remarked, "You're not going to brush this off." Somewhere in the back, a microphone stand fell over with a clang that no one bothered to acknowledge, and the stage lights felt hotter and heavier. "Whatever was just whispered to you, Jackie, we're all going to hear it," she said, cutting through the low hum of the crowd. Jackie shifted in her chair, clasping and unclasping her hands in her lap. "This isn't the time." "No, this is exactly the time," Chantel interrupted, stepping forward. The audience erupted in applause as Evelyn said, "Protect me from what?" "Just another of your flimsy conspiracy fantasies. I think you've been trying to protect her for too long, and now you're doing it once more. Ever since you decided that my name was your key to fame, you have been making up stories." Chantel repeated the term storytelling, allowing it to linger for a time. "When the truth is present, do you believe I have to make anything up?" She poked a finger at Evelyn, her fingernails gleaming like tiny steel glints in the stage light. With the head moving back, Jackie's single quotations. Some even got up, as though that would enable them to see every tiny expression on these women's faces. "Your honesty is like gold on a necklace made of plastic." With the sneer back on her lips, Evelyn shot back. She was clearly out of control, even though it might shine for a second before others touch it and realize the truth. Now that the tide had turned, Chantel and Evelyn were at the forefront of the mayhem. Evelyn leaned closer and interrupted. "Feel free, Chantel." The name hurt. Chantel's voice sank and her jaw tightened, but she didn't flinch. "You can act clever all you want, but if I start mentioning names, you and I both know that you should do it. Names. Put on a show for them." Jackie started to speak, but was cut off by the audience's abrupt outburst. The possibility of comparing it to waves breaking onto a beach. As many attempted to grab the perfect shot and perspective for the unavoidably popular video, camera phones bobbed and swayed. "I went for the video that would undoubtedly go viral. Would you like to show? All right. Let's begin with that brief excursion you made last spring." Evelyn paused her grin. "Which journey?" "Oh, stop pretending that you don't." Chantel stepped forward, reducing the already minimal gap between them. "I'm sure you have no idea what you're talking about." The audience let out a piercing gasp, and Evelyn's hands clenched into fists at her sides. The mockingly sympathetic V. As soon as Evelyn took the stage at Jackie's, the atmosphere in the room changed. She has the crisp, purposeful step of someone who has been pushed too far. Rather than the quiet gray for which she is occasionally renowned. For days, rumors had been circulating across fan pages. Makeup chairs and green rooms, all focused on a single devastating allegation that Evelyn had participated. Chantel was prepared to reveal every detail of the romance. However, rather than trembling under the gossip, Evelyn turned to the throng, her voice solid. Shaw her gaze fixed. "Let's be clear," she murmured, cutting over the audience's muted murmur. Lying appeared to linger in the air like a heavy electric current. These stories are pure lies. Jackie's grasp on her cards tightened, but her countenance remained unreadable as she struggled to balance her impulse to control the situation with her desire to let everything unfold for the cameras. Floods of home-based fans were glued to their televisions. Real-time responses on social media showed that although some people supported Evelyn, others believed her denial was merely stoking the flames. Additionally, everyone knew that something more significant was going to happen during the tense stillness that followed her speech, as if it were a part of the set design. The lights in Jackie's studio felt hotter than normal. Reflecting off the polished floor and capturing the tension in the air during the warm-up, the audience was boisterous. But as the camera focused on the two women seated at the front, it became quiet, nearly holding their breath on either side of the stage. Evelyn was standing stiffly. Her hands were clenched in her lap, but her eyes were keen, fixed on Chantel as if she were preparing for a blow. Chantel, on the other hand, appeared almost too at ease. She tugged at her lips with a faint, knowing smile. One leg stretched over the other as though she was waiting for Evelyn to slip. Jackie's chair was between them. Her body was stiff, but she was tilted toward the audience. She was making an effort to appear impartial, but occasionally like a referee who senses that the fight is about to go out of bounds. Her eyes darted tensely between the two. Every change in expression, hand twitch, and jaw clenching was captured by the cameras, which transmitted the event live to hundreds of people watching at home, and thousands more who were already recording it for social media. It was Evelyn who broke the silence first. "You've been telling everyone that I'm involved in something that I'm not for weeks," she remarked in a low voice that pierced through the atmosphere like glass. "You're sitting on this stage now pretending to have receipts." Her brows narrowed as she moved forward a little. "So where are they?" The audience reacted in a wave of murmurs, a couple of people even gasping loud enough for the mics to pick it up. Chantel didn't flinch. Instead, she tilted her head, resting her elbow on the armrest and propping her chin on her hand like she was studying Evelyn. "Receipts aren't something you flash. You bring them out when the time is right," she remarked quietly. Her words purposeful. "You bring them around for fun. Maybe we can start by hearing exactly what the accusations are." Jackie attempted to intervene in a calm but somewhat strained voice. Evelyn had the opportunity to answer straight, but she interrupted with a stern look. She added, "Oh, we all know what she's been saying." As she turned back to Chantel, Chantel's smile wavered for a little moment, but it was enough for the cameras to capture her, saying, "You've been whispering about an affair, about me crossing lines I would never cross. You've been planting seeds, hoping they'll grow into something ugly enough to ruin me." She stood up upright, sweeping, and before responding, she removed an imaginary speck from her skirt. "If the truth ruins you, that's not on me," she stated. A woman in the second row covered her mouth with her hands and whispered something to the man next to her, saying, "I'm not here to play innocent when I know what I've seen." Red recording lights and phones held high among the crowd. People were blinking to make sure they didn't miss anything. Everyone seemed to be waiting for the gloves to be taken off. And there was a mixture of astonishment and excitement in the air. A few people flinched as Evelyn stood up and her chair scraped against the stage. Her heels clicked in the uncomfortable silence as she made a few deliberate strides towards Chantel. "You've seen nothing but what you want to see," she said, remarked, her voice trembling now from exasperation rather than fear. "You're trying to sell the whole story you've constructed in your mind to everyone who will listen. I will not allow you to use me as your headline." Chantel remained sitting, her face almost daring Evelyn to continue as she looked up at her. According to her, the headline might occasionally write itself, particularly when the door is left open by those involved. Whispers sounded in the back of the room, and someone's voice came loud enough to reach the microphones. "Oh, wow." Jackie leaned forward, obviously caught between intervening before the situation went too far and letting it unfold for the drama. "Ladies," she stated in a stern voice, but against the current flowing between the two women. Her comments sounded like background noise. "We're live. Let's remember that." Evelyn's hands tightened into fists at her sides and her jaw tensed. Sitting there and pretending to be the voice of truth is not your place. "You've got your own," she added. "Miss. Miss Chantel, maybe you should reconsider attempting to bring mine into the spotlight because you don't want to be out here." There was a slight but noticeable change in the atmosphere. It was immediately apparent to the audience. The eyes grew wide. A few people straightened their posture, and the room began to murmur became louder. Chantel's smile had vanished to be replaced by a more difficult to-it expression. Part warning, part disobedience. "Do you mean to threaten me?" Her voice carried even though she inquired quietly. Evelyn said, "I'm saying that we can go there if you'd like to. Be aware that when the words are, they can't be taken back once they're out." Jackie hesitated after her fingers jerked as if she were going to signal the crew. People talked about this kind of unscripted, unadulterated drama for weeks. She still leaned somewhat closer to Evelyn. She said, "Be careful." Yet, it was still captured by the microphones. The tenseness persisted. Its simply change deepened. Evelyn crossed her arms and took a small step back as though she was trying to restrain herself. Chantel said steadily as she leaned forward. "I'm not the one who's afraid of the truth," she responded. "You are because you know deep down that there's more to this story than you want people to see." The audience responded once again, and the sound the stage lights seemed to burn hotter. Every second seemed to drag a bit too long. No one moved to cut to commercial. No one dared look away. Phones were still recording, and people outside the studio were already reacting online in real time. With trending hashtags appearing, speculative threads growing, and blurry screenshots from the live feed being dissected. The audience seemed to lean in all at once as Jackie's words left her mouth as if the entire room had been drawn forward by an unseen force. This was no longer just a heated exchange. It was the kind of moment that could change how everyone saw both women, but it felt like they were just getting started. Chantel took a slow, deliberate breath, her gaze shifting between Jackie and Evelyn. "You're not going to brush this off," she said, as the lights on stage felt heavier and hotter, and somewhere in the back, a microphone stand fell over with a clang that no one bothered to acknowledge. "Whatever was just whispered to you, Jackie, we're all going to hear it," she said, cutting through the low hum of the crowd. Jackie shifted in her chair, clasping and unclasping her hands in her lap. "This isn't the time." "No, this is exactly the time," Chantel interrupted. "This is exactly the time," Chantel interrupted. Commotion came Evelyn's voice. "To make things seem worse than they actually are. You're manipulating the facts. The whole tale is not in your possession," the woman said coolly. "I don't need the whole tale. I've had enough." Whether they acknowledge it or not, many others in this room share this sentiment. A member of the audience shouted, "Show the receipts." Immediately after, the crowd began chanting, "Receipts! Receipts!" The woman took her phone out of her bag, quickly scrolling with her thumb, and put it up to the cameras. "I didn't want this to happen, but if it's necessary to expose the truth, then so be it." "To get a shot," the camera operator rushed. Evelyn, however, stepped forward abruptly and spoke sharply. "You have no right to post that. You're not entitled." Chantel gave a little chuckle. "Oh, it's a boot rights. Evelyn, you've been acting like a person who is above everyone else for years. However, you break down the moment someone changes the course of events." Evelyn turned to Chantel and spoke loudly, trembling. "I'm not going to crumble. People who don't deserve to be included in your carnival are the ones I'm defending." "It's amusing," Chantel answered. "Because you're just defending yourself, in my opinion." Jackie was now standing, her palm up as if to avert the impending storm. "Both of you, enough. We need to take a break, no breaks," the woman on the stair remarked forcefully. "The public needs to see just this. A man in a baseball is in the front row. No cuts, no edits, just the truth. Raw and unfiltered." His pal nodded, already texting frantically into his phone. As Cap leaned over and whispered, "This is going to blow up online in seconds." When the woman eventually took the final step, the tension increased. Dot stood at the center of the stage. She whispered now just a few feet from Evelyn. "You can keep spinning your story." The mics captured Evelyn's response, which was no more than a whisper, but deep down, you know. "I could end this right now, and you had better be prepared for what I'm going to say about you if you cue Dot raising her eyebrows." Chantel looked at the audience as if she was still in shock at what she had just heard. "It's a standoff now." "I see, I'm good with that. First, let's see who blinks." The lady did not flinch. After a lengthy, uninterrupted moment of holding Evelyn's stare, she turned to face the audience. "The truth always comes out," she uttered, and her tone permeated each jockey slowly sat back down, her eyes darting between the three women. And as she slipped her phone back into her bag, the noise level of the crowd decreased to a low. Buzzing hummed the kind of silence that didn't mean calm, but rather that something was about to happen, and everyone knew it. Some were mouthing, "Keep going!" while others were in a frenzy over to the side, Others were making frantic gestures to wrap it up when Chantel suddenly stepped forward and said something that caused everyone in the front row to gasp and lean forward. The room briefly froze in their seats, as if all of the sounds had been sucked out of the air, and Evelyn's face changed. A flash of Shay tried to hide her surprise with a laugh, but it was too late. The audience had already noticed her moment of vulnerability, and murmurs and tilted phones echoed through the throng like an approaching storm. "You want to play games, Chantel?" Evelyn spoke slowly and deliberately. "Then let's play, but keep in mind that I win." Chantel took a step closer, her eyes never leaving Evelyn's. "You've been losing for a long time. You just don't know it yet." Jackie was on the edge of her seat, torn between stepping in to stop the live tape from spiraling, utterly out of control, and letting it develop because a man's voice yelled from someplace deep in the audience. She's got the messages, and she knew the drama would be the talk of the town for weeks. Everyone turned to look at the source. A tall man wearing a gray sweatshirt with his phone held high above the throng. "I have screenshots and an audio recording of the incident notes. It's all in here." Security began to approach him, but Chantel stood up. "A hand led him through," she said, her voice piercing the confusion, and the crowd grudgingly parted. All faces displaying the morbid curiosity that only arises when a secret is just a few seconds away from being revealed. Evelyn's face stiffened as she walked up to the stage. "Don't you dare," she said. But her voice lacked the strength it had only moments before. The man climbed the steps and gave Chantel his phone, saying, "It's all there." Times, dates, and her voice uttering unbelievable things. Sean briefly scrolled before pausing on a single clip. She said almost gently, "You want me to play this to Evelyn?" "You wouldn't," said Evelyn. Her voice was trembling now, though. Chantel pressed the play button. Despite a slight background noise, Evelyn's voice could be clearly heard around the room. ... And it's over for me if they ever learn what transpired in Vegas. We'll both be all right if you don't say anything. Shouts of profanity, gasps, and a few startled giggles filled the room. Evelyn moved forward and grabbed Chantel's phone. "Han, you don't know the context," she yelled, her voice nearly breaking. "Then explain it," Chantel retorted. "You don't know what that was about." Jackie's voice boomed over the stage as she finally stood up. "Enough. We can't keep doing this on my stage. This is supposed to be about resolution, not destruction." Resolution, however, did not appeal to the audience. They stood up, pointing to their phones and pleading for more. Evelyn inhaled deeply, clearly trying to gather her thoughts. "Fine," she responded in a trembling but sharp voice. "Want to discuss Vegas? Let's discuss Vegas." Chantel crossed her arms and said, "You had better be prepared for your side to come out when I tell mine." "I have nothing to conceal." Evelyn said, "We'll discuss that further." There was a hint of darkness in her voice. Evelyn turned to the cameras in a single motion. Given that everyone here is the truth for those who seek it, Chantel wasn't merely making a dramatic accusation against me. Her goal is to divert attention from her own mess because she has been concealing something worse while she's been so busy accusing me. All of the audience's eyes were fixed on Evelyn as they leaned forward like one entity. People could see the double quotes because Chantel's grin wavered just enough. "Oh, don't be shocked," Evelyn added. "You understand exactly what I mean?" Sensing that the balance of power was changing once more, Jackie's gaze shifted between the two ladies. She told Evelyn that she was entering perilous area, but Evelyn chose to ignore her. "John Tall, tell them about the texts." With a low, purposeful voice, Evelyn pressed. There was a mutter, "Tell them who they were, too." Or should I? Chantel's shoulders and the room stiffened. She responded, "You're bluffing." But it didn't sound as confident as it had. Evelyn moved closer till they were just a few inches apart. "Give me a try." The audience was enthralled, with some calling for Chantel to respond, and others pleading with Evelyn to reveal. Camera operators were weaving among the tumult, getting every twitch of an eyebrow, every trembling in their voices as though considering her next course of action. Chantel inhaled deeply. "You think you've got me cornered, but you don't realize what I can do," she said at last. Dot stated in a cool but icy tone. "Then demonstrate for me," Evelyn pushed back. The air seemed to have stopped moving due to the intense stress. As Chantel carefully dug into her bag and took out a little crumpled envelope, the audience leaned in. For the cameras, she held it up. "Do you wish to discuss secrets? Let's discuss this." Evelyn's gaze grew strained. "What is that?" "Chant holes." A gentle smile, curled lips, something that will make Vegas appear like a harmless holiday destination. Jackie raised her hands in frustration as the crowd yelled once more. "This place will be set on fire by you too." "Fire," she whispered. The moment stretched into an almost intolerable wait as Chantel's fingers paused. Even while her own eyes were fixed on the envelope, the crowd's shouts became frantic as they yelled for her to unlock it. Evelyn sprang forward and grabbed her wrist as she was about to slide a finger beneath the seal. "Don't you dare!" She growled loud enough to be picked up by every microphone in the room. Chantel's eyes widened as the audience gasped once more. She spit out, "Get your hands off me!" and pulled her arm away. The room waited for her next move as if the whole night depended on it while she gazed down at Evelyn. The envelope's still in her hand and the whole thing is located there. The night passed. Fans are still discussing the expression in Chantel's eyes when she handled that envelope, which went from a over-the-flap-heated argument to a full-on storm that nobody anticipated. The way Evelyn's voice cracked for only a second, and how Jackie's stage turned into the center of a reality TV earthquake. According to those with knowledge of the scenario, the tension continued after the cameras stopped rolling. Rolling indeed. Some claim that the events that transpired backstage may have been even more horrific than what we all just saw. The problem is that none of this has been verified, which is precisely what makes it even more explosive. Right now, all we have are the online responses, and believe me, they are harsh. Hashtags are trending, people are picking sides, and it sues if there is a complete rift in the fan base. While some believe Evelyn's warning concerning Chantel's personal secrets was more than a bluff, others believe Chantel had the right to push Evelyn that far. What do you think then? Was Chantel prepared to ruin Evelyn's whole tale? Or did she conceal herself beneath that envelope to divert attention away from her own mess? More significantly, will 1 or 2 careers be ended if that envelope is ever seen? We need to know which side you support. So please share your thoughts in the comments section. If you would want us to continue exploring this story, please make sure to use the like button. Additionally, remember to subscribe so you don't miss this continuing drama's next part. I promise you that if what we're hearing is accurate, tonight will seem manageable in the upcoming update. Hold on tight. This journey is somewhat distant.